South East Queensland has experienced extraordinary property growth in recent years, but with prices already at record levels, population continuing to surge, and tens of thousands of new homes planned across the region, where does the opportunity lie for investors today? My guest on this episode is Alister French, Air Force veteran, strategic buyer's agent, and founder of Smart Path Property on the Sunshine Coast. In a short time, Alister has built a rapidly growing online following of more than 10,000 people, reaching hundreds of thousands each month with his often direct and sometimes controversial takes on property investment. In this episode, we discuss what a buyer's agent actually does, capital growth versus rental yield, where Alister sees opportunity across Southeast Queensland, and why he believes some of the largest master-planned communities may not represent the long-term investment opportunity many assume they do. We also look at the enormous population growth forecast for the Sunshine Coast, the potential impact of the 2032 Olympics, and whether investors should be buying into that growth or looking for scarcity elsewhere. And finally, we step outside property and explore how Alister built such a significant social media audience in less than a year and what other business owners can learn from his approach to online marketing. There's plenty to unpack on this one. Here's my conversation with Alister French.
We're all in pursuit of a life that's true, building something bigger than me or you. If you're ready to grow, then this path's for you. Welcome to Allies on Pursuit.
This episode is brought to you by New Horizon Financial. Whether you're growing a business, buying a home, investing in property, or upgrading equipment, New Horizon Financial provides tailored lending solutions to help business owners, investors, and professionals achieve their financial goals with confidence. Contact your local NHF credit advisor today on 1-300-133-597 or visit www.nhfaus.com.au. And now, on to the show. Alister French, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, I'm glad that you could make it out here, brother. I've been following you for a little while now, and I'm really impressed with the content you put out. I think you've got a great voice for people in property investment. And yeah, I just wanted to get you to talk a little bit about, where you fit in, a little bit about your business. Tell us a bit about yourself and Smart Path Property to get started.
Yeah, so I started Smart Path Property back at the start of the year. I decided that I was going to go out on my own and pursue the buyer's agency thing. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is I seen an opportunity in the market of not enough education and stuff on the Sunshine Coast. So I thought if I can go out and provide that education and help people on their property journey, both residential, investment, and owner-occupiers, that would be great.
Yeah, so you've been trading as Smart Path Property for roughly how long now?
8 months.
8 months. What were you doing before that? Like, what made you decide to get into this besides the sort of obvious identified need? You must have a passion for what you do because it comes across in a lot of your material.
Yeah, so I've been investing in property since 2023. Renovations, subdivision, build on the go. So, sweat equity and trying to build some wealth that way.
Yep.
Also have another small business in labour hire and operational support.
Yep.
So World Superbikes and MotoGP, don't know if you know the little bikes that race around the world, but when they come into Australia, we facilitate all the behind-the-scenes operational support with them and went around the world with them in 2023. So some great opportunities there.
Yeah, I saw in some of your earlier posts you'd done a bit of travel. What's one of the most interesting places you think you visited?
I personally like Thailand.
Yeah?
They're people that don't have anything, but they're so grateful for what they have and living with very little. But they're grateful people and very kind.
Yeah, it's almost off-putting when you go there. Like the smiles they're full and everyone has this vibrant energy. It's almost, for me, when I first came there, I was like, hey, wait a minute. Is this real? Are these people actually this friendly, or am I being scammed?
No, it's really good. It's nice, and it's just a different experience to what we get in Western culture.
Yeah,
that's my
absolutely.
biggest draw.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I want to talk to you a little bit about your business specifically. Like, so you're a buyer's agent, and for someone who's never used a buyer's agent before, what exactly do you do, and sort of what type of clients do you attract?
I've got a broad range of clients, from investment focused portfolio strategy and going through those works to owner occupiers, first time, owner occupiers and first home buyers. So a bit of a range, but very specific on the Sunshine Coast and helping people get into the market.
At what point does someone actually need a buyer's agent? Rather than simply finding a property themselves, what point would it be wise for them to sort of get in touch with someone like yourself?
I find I get a lot of inquiry from people with my social media who have absolutely no idea, and they go, here's this guy talking about property. I'm going to shoot him a message, and then we can help put them in with the right mortgage brokers to get their finance sorted, a conveyancer or solicitor to make sure that they've got the right advice, accountants, etc. Or often people come to us, they've seen their mortgage broker, maybe they've bought a house before, but they don't know on the Sunshine Coast where to buy or what to do, or they're really struggling with a hot market. So they come to us at that stage and they've got a pre-approval in finance, and then we can assist them in area selection, what the sort of house looks like that they could be buying for their type of money, and then, different lifestyle factors. Maybe they're interstate and they don't know, but they want the kids in X school. And then what can we offer for their budget within the location that suits?
Yeah, that makes sense. What are you able to see or understand about a property that the average investor probably might not notice?
I think there's a variety of different things. We're full-time, like every day of the week, 10 hours a day pretty much. I'm looking at property, going through properties, talking to agents. I think it's very hard for the average person who's maybe looking on weekends and after work to compete with a professional that's doing it full-time. And as the more you do something, the better you get. A couple of 1,000 hours into something makes you much better, no matter what your craft, whether that's a tradesman, an apprenticeship,
Absolutely. Yeah, I know like a few of my clients have benefited a great deal. These are people that, as business owners, they're very short on time. It's one thing to sort of troll through the real estate website, to talk to a few agents. Like I find there's not a lot of proactivity when it comes to selling from a lot of real estate agents. A lot of real estate agents are so focused on the actual listing themselves that sometimes the buyers are the ones that don't get the service that they deserve. I feel like that's where you guys become really beneficial for people.
Yeah, correct. So unlike a real estate who represents the person selling the house, we come in and represent the person buying the house.
That's it.
People often get confused that the real estate is trying to help them, but they're not. Ultimately, they're being paid by the vendor who's selling the house. And anything that they might be telling you is ultimately helping them get a better price to get a larger commission check. So that's where we can come in as a buyer's agent and help assist in the process. Time poor people who don't have time for the research, people who don't want to do it, and assist in that process.
And you're based on the Sunshine Coast. Have you lived here for a long time? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so did a bit of moving around as a kid, but my family based on Sunshine Coast the end of 2016, early 2017.
Yeah.
And then I've been on and off since then, traveling and investment properties and moving around the country. Bit of time in the military. So
I knew you had a military background. That's right. We might have talked about that over beer when I first met you.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. In your opinion, has the Sunshine Coast become too expensive for investors?
Depends on who you ask. I definitely don't think so. I think if you buy the best quality asset in the best location your money can afford, then you're getting a good quality asset that's going to perform long term. And it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I get a lot of clients come up from Melbourne and Sydney that sell their house for $3 to $6 million. They have no mortgage, and what they can buy money for value on the Sunshine Coast is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people coming from capital cities would still see, Pelican Waters as, wow, this is tremendous. We're on the water for, still under $2 million. Yes. This is fantastic. Some of those channels up through Kiwana and all that, they look fantastic to people who've been stuck in the center of in the heart of a major CBD. They come up here and it's absolute paradise.
Yes.
And like prices on the water, you think Sydney Double Bay area or, somewhere on the Sunshine Coast, you think, oh my God, these houses are half the price.
Yes.
The average cost, I think the last time I looked, was about 1.2, 1.23, something like that on the Sunshine Coast, which is comparable to Brisbane, actually. Brisbane's very close. I think there's a little bit greater range in terms of affordability spots or pockets in the Brisbane area because it is so large. But if you were to consider the Sunshine Coast, do you have any recommendations on where to buy? And if so, why?
If you've got unlimited funds,
Yeah.
I think Badina, you look at the statistics, those areas, Badina, close to the water, the east side of Nickland Way coming down the Sunshine Coast, performed very strong.
Yep.
You're close to the beach, you've got good lifestyle factors. If you're needing a bit more affordability, you've got out in Nambour and those up-and-coming areas that are a bit more affordable. You can get in, put some sweat equity in, and get yourself on the property ladder.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. What would be, in your opinion, would you favor the Sunshine Coast over Brisbane or, say, Moreton Bay, Ipswich, or Logan, for example?
I personally like the Sunshine Coast. It's got a lot of big business coming in. It's got a lot of lifestyle factors. It's gone from being that small seaside town 20 years ago above Brisbane to now being an economic hub. We've got the heavy rail coming into the Sunshine Coast and a lot of infrastructure. I think it's around $23 billion worth of infrastructure coming into the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, with the Olympics on their way, with just that natural migration and desirability of the area, the sort of estimates I've seen are somewhere between, over the next 5 years, maybe up to 40,000, 50,000, new residents. Is that in line with what your sort of thoughts are? Do you have any sort of predictions on what to expect over the coming years with the Olympics, etc.?
Yeah, well, we're currently one of the strongest performing places for interstate migration and people coming in. And it's around 8,000 people per year. And that's projected to continue until 2041. So by 2041, the Sunshine Coast region's expected to have around 500,000 people here.
Yeah, wow.
Which is a significant amount of demand coming into the area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anywhere on the Sunshine Coast where you would refuse to buy?
For me, yes. It's the old Aura and Harmony. Not so much a big fan of these new housing estates.
Yeah. You've been pretty outspoken about the developments like Aura, for example, even suggesting that some of these sort of larger master planned estates could be seen as future ghettos, for example. That's a fairly provocative statement. What's behind that?
When you look at history through Australia, generally new housing estates haven't performed as well because the large amount of supply that keeps coming to the market, the prices are artificially inflated. And the problem I see with it is they're building, for example, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garages on 350 square metres.
Yeah.
They go out and build 2,000 of them at a time. That attracts a demographic of people that is looking for that affordable housing, which is all fine. People do need to live somewhere. But the problem comes is we get interest rates go up, fuel prices are through the roof, your food on the grocery shelf is expensive, and those people are the ones that are hit the hardest when, the mortgage repayment comes in every month and they're on the Australian average or below Australian average incomes. That leads to a problem of distress selling. And if someone needs to sell in a hurry, they sell their property for $50,000 less than the market rate. Then that sets a new benchmark because they're all 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. There's no disparity between your house and the neighbour's house, which means now, theoretically, why am I going to pay $50,000 more for your house when the neighbours sold for $50,000 less because they had to in a distressed sale, which sets a new benchmark. Whereas in an established suburb, for example, you get individual houses that people fall in love with the emotions and it's the north-facing backyard or it's the established fruit trees or it's the way that the pool runs out off the open plan living area. It's not such an affordable build like the new housing estates.
What about high-rises and apartment complexes? What are your views and takes on those sort of things? I think I got an idea.
Well, I call them like the junk food of property. So they're really easy to consume. They're great when you're buying them off the plan and they feel good, but they're shit for you long term. You've only got to look at places like Docklands down in Melbourne, and people paid more for their apartments 20 or 30 years ago than what they're paying, and selling them for now and what people are paying for them now. Again, the reason comes back to you've got 200 apartments in the same building, so you only own 1/200th of that portion of land, so you don't own much of the land, and they're all the same. They're all 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with 1 car space. Someone needs to sell on a higher level at a distressed sale. That then sets the benchmark for the unit complex.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is we are growing so quickly on the Sunshine Coast. You only have to be on the Bruce Highway on a Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. to think, my God, this has just gotten out of hand. Like, it takes 2 hours to do a 1-hour trip in the morning. That's if you leave early. I remember I have to leave at like 5 a.m. if I want to get to the city at a reasonable hour because it just gets so congested. And yeah, we've got the rail lines coming in. But even in and around Aura and these planned developments around South Aura, we can already see without a crystal ball, 20,000 new homes, 30,000 new homes, 25, 30,000 new homes. The projected growth seems to be almost unsustainable when you think of the infrastructure. I think a lot of people complain about that. Do you get a lot of feedback from people in your forums or through your direct communication that sort of voice these concerns? What are the average Sunshine Coast resident thinking about the future right now?
I definitely get a lot of controversy in the comments. A lot of the older established Sunshine Coast demographic do not want these new developments. They do not want change. They don't want the rail. They don't want to see their beautiful home in the seaside town that we've got turn into another big city.
Yeah. I find that too, just going through a lot of the comments and even some of the things that I've posted or conversations I've had with local residents. You know, they want to protect what is special about this area. And yeah, it has been sort of a place to get away, the Sunshine Coast, and seeing it turn into just another highly developed suburb of Brisbane. It is disheartening to some people, but ultimately the demand is there, like we talked about earlier, with the Olympics coming on, with 50,000 people projected to show up in the next 5 to 10 years. The houses need to be built. What would you say to people who they hear your comments, they understand that there is a great deal of substance behind those concerns with regards to the quality of the builds, the distress selling, etc. What would someone think? Well, I don't want to buy wrong, but I also don't want to pay $2 million for a property. What would you say to those people that might be thinking of moving up from Melbourne or from Sydney? They want to buy right. What would be some of the recommendations you'd make to them?
Number one is get expert advice on the ground. Financial planners, mortgage brokers, buyers agents. Speak to professionals that are on the ground and people that know the area, like a local expert, and then break it down from there. Start with the end goal in mind and the lifestyle and work backwards. I always say you've got 3 things. You've got a property and the condition of the house. You've got the location and you've got the price. It's very rare that you get all of those 3 things in one. So you might get the right house at the right price, but the location's a little bit further out, or it's not quite on the beach where you want to be. Or you get you pay a good price and you get a great location, but the house is a bit run down and it needs some work. So it's juggling those 3 things to, get to where you want to be.
And for someone looking at a home and enlisting your services, what are some of the things that people miss? There's the obvious things that people learn even just from a basic perspective. Well, I need to have a solicitor to help me with my legal. I need to have building and pest to make sure that the place isn't being eaten by termites and that it's not falling apart. But are there things that the average person overlooks that are important to consider when looking for that next investment?
A big thing is negotiation.
Okay.
And a real estate agent comes back to you and they go, you need to increase your offer. And then often people just jump in and increase the offer. But there's multiple different ways to structure an offer, understanding why they're selling the property, what's the vendor's motivations, and then can you meet them with terms and conditions? Do they want a long settlement? Do they want a short settlement? What are they flexible? Do they need a larger deposit because they need to be, confident in what's going on? Like, what is it that makes them feel confident in taking your offer, even though it might not be the highest monetary offer? I think often gets overlooked.
That's smart advice.
Can you do a building and pest before putting in the offer so that you remove that condition completely? There's no building and pest clause.
Yeah, that's smart. So having clauses obviously weakens people's position when they're trying to negotiate on price. I know that from a mortgage broker's perspective. I consistently advise clients to get a pre-approval in place. Make sure they're approved for even slightly more than they want to pay. So it takes the pressure off of them when they're in that negotiation. It gives them a more powerful position when making an offer. But outside of being pre-approved, are there other suggestions from a buyer's agent perspective that people could benefit from?
Being confident in what you do. So knowing your numbers, knowing that you've got a good team and being able to act quickly, not dragging your heels, that's definitely strong. And it comes back to, if you need, get professional help or put the time and effort into the research. Like, how many people go out there and buy a new car and read all the forums and look at this and look at that and test drive this at the dealership.
Yeah.
And then someone goes and buys a house off, looking on the weekend and walking through a 15-minute inspection.
Yeah. I think a lot of people a house can be cars can be an emotional purchase, but I think houses are highly emotive. Even from my perspective, I will be advising customers, listen, you should get pre-approved before you even go looking, because you walk into a place and your wife taps you on the shoulder. This is perfect. This is us. This is our future. We need to act now. Right? Yep. What would you say would be because it can be an emotional purchase for a lot of people, what would you say is the most common mistake you see from buyers in today's market?
Under-education. The real estate said that it's worth 1.3. The wife absolutely loves it. And we put in an offer at 1.3, but the closest comparable sale was, 1.1 million, and potentially you've just overpaid by 200,000.
Yeah.
That could be a big thing, when if you'd done some market due diligence, you'd know that the house, down the street, which was a little bit similar, sold for, 1.12. So
from the average person's perspective, if the concept of a buyer's agent is foreign to them and they're thinking, man, Alister seems like a legit guy. He's got a lot of useful information. I've watched a lot of your social media content. I'd love to work with you. But they might be apprehensive just on what are the costs involved? Is this going to be an expensive ordeal? What would we say to speak to those people to put them at ease?
It depends on what you're trying to get out of it.
Yep.
So having a chat and then doing some research into buyer's agents, and having most buyer's agents offer an obligation-free chat. So ringing them up, having a chat, booking in online, and understanding where is the value that a buyer's agent can bring to the table for us. Is it in knowing the area, the market expertise? Is it in the negotiation? It often makes me question things when people don't see the value in us, and then they go out and purchase the property $100,000 over what we could have bought it. And most buyers agents are around that $20,000 mark. If they'd paid $20,000 but saved $80,000, would that not have been a good investment in the service?
Yeah.
But they don't see the value in it up front, but then potentially overpay on the back end. But I think having the chat, reaching out, whether it's a message over social media, a phone call, booking in a consultation with a buyer's agent or someone who's a local expert.
If people contact you direct, do you have a team of people, or do you tend to service your people directly as well?
I like to do everything forward-facing with the client. So I've got some help on the ground and sourcing property and in the back end of running ads in the business. But I like to deal with clients. I like to get an understanding, why are they buying? What is it for them? Is it about the kids? Is it about the retirement? Is it mum and dad eventually moving in with them to retire and settle down? Really getting a clear understanding on how we can help the clients, what it is they're looking for, and then going out and finding that ideal property for them.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people would benefit that for sure. I want to talk to you because this is a business podcast as well as property and investment. And one of the things that struck me was, your work ethic. I think that it stands out, in my opinion. I think anyone who spends any time going through the content that you provide, the level of research and focus on the local market, I think it's exceptional. I think a lot of people would benefit even just from watching your content, even if they never actually enlist your services. You've built more than, it stands out. You've built more than 10,000 followers in less than a year.
Yes.
What do you think you've done differently that helped make your content grow so quickly?
Volume.
Yeah?
Simply volume. So looking at all the big people that, are out there, you got Alex Hormozy, Jack Henderson in the property space, these kind of people. You go and look at how many posts they've done, and they've all done 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 posts. And then you look at your measly 20 or 30 and you go, I'm really not doing enough.
You're talking about my page.
No, not at all. No, but that's where it was when I started.
Yeah.
You've done 20 or 30 posts and you're wondering why you're not getting any traction or anything from that. So I decided from day dot, I'm going to try and do 4 videos a day, 7 days a week, and give value. I believe in giving value and talking about what's going on in the area and giving value so that people can go in and negotiate a bit better. Or they look at this or look at that in an inspection that they might not have looked at before.
Yeah.
And if it helps people go out and make a better educated decision, well, then it's a win-win because I'm learning all this information anyway. I might as well make content and put it out there.
That's it. How strategic are you about planning your content though? Do you have a strategic sort of set time of day? Do you have a posting schedule? Do you think about the topics you want to write in advance and sort of have, a breakdown? Okay, well, this week I need to make sure I cover this much about, for example, the technicalities of purchasing a property, the area itself. Do you have a sort of format to the way that you do things? Are you super strategic, or do you sort of follow your heart in a lot of ways? Would you mind talking a bit about that?
So it depends on where you are in the journey. For me personally, at the start, there was absolutely nothing. It was just throwing mud at the wall and seeing what stuck.
Yeah.
And then you start to get that feedback. Once you've done 100 videos, well, that one really works. This one really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start to do more of what works and gets engagement and helps people along the way. And you can do less of what doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it's gone on, I like to just stay relevant. So I'm not overly strict. I don't want to make it a chore because I do enjoy content. You want to have a bit of fun with it. People want to know who you are and what you do, not just this regimented, we need to talk about this, I need to talk about that sort of scenario. So having a bit of fun with it and being relevant to what's going on. Is it just that this DA has been approved for 12,000 homes?
Yeah.
Is it that they've just broken ground on this construction here?
Yeah.
Is it that, interest rates have just gone up and now we need to be cautious of less borrowing power? Staying relevant to what's going on, but giving value.
If you had to start from 0 followers again, what would you do in the first 90 days of your new endeavor?
Volume.
Again, volume speaks.
So for me, I believe social media and content is the way going forwards.
Yep.
Regardless whether you're mowing lawns, pressure washing, a mortgage broker or a buyer's agent.
Yep.
For me, it's volume of content. That gives you feedback. Feedback then allows you to edit and critique what you're doing.
I think it's natural that as people create content, they're going to receive both positive and negative feedback. How have you handled in the past criticism or that feeling of, there's an element of, you put your ego on the line when you put yourself out there. Your face is on the camera. You're potentially reaching out to, I think you're reaching out to almost 500,000 views a month. There's a lot of people that see you. Do you have any strategies on how people who might not want to face cameras, might feel apprehensive putting themselves out there on the mass market in terms to overcome those nerves and that feeling of possible rejection?
There's no easy way to do it. It's hard and it's really shit at the start.
Yeah.
But it's just about, knowing that this is where you want to go. You want to grow that business or you want to get to this goal.
Mm-hmm.
And content's going to help you get there. And unfortunately, you've just got to get uncomfortable and go through that. If you go back to the start of all of my content on Instagram and Facebook, the original videos are still there and I go back and cringe.
Even
me, it was terrible. I couldn't edit. You could see me turning on the camera, turning off the camera. It was terrible. It was really bad.
Yep.
And it was funny, my first video that popped off, I had about half an hour before I went off to a field training session. So I had a raggy old white t-shirt on, crinkled up. It was, Nike and mud stains on it.
Yeah. Made
the video and just playing around editing, posted it. Come back from a 1 hour field session and there was over 10,000 views, which for me at the time was viral. Wow, this is crazy. And that video went on to do, I think, 250,000 over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, wow. And that even surprised you at the time.
Correct.
Yep.
And then that's when you start to get that feedback and you learn. And again, you get a lot of hate. People going, do you dye that shirt with a brick? But that drives engagement.
Yeah.
And then as you go on, you start to bring on clients from the social media. You start to work with more people, creates different opportunities. Like this podcast, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the content.
Yep.
And from there you go, a lot of these people that are hating on you are probably many levels below where you are. That's
a real thing too, because when people when they do the reps, when they get out there and they face their fears, deal with adversity, and when they reach a particular level of success, and when they see someone up and coming, they're not the ones hating on people. They're the ones that are supportive. It's those that are afraid to take on those fears. Those are afraid to take a chance, put themselves out there, that'll be the first to want to tear you down.
Yes.
When you think about business owners who are struggling to get traction on social media and trying to put out content and just not having a lot of luck, I know that you've hit the nail on the head a couple of times when it just speaks about volume. But are there any tips you have in creating content that actually people want to watch? That, for example, when you had that first hit, that must have been an epiphany. Oh, okay. This is content people want to see. Mm-hmm. Would you have suggestions in terms of creating content people want to watch?
Something that's entertaining
mm-hmm.
and a little bit different. Can you be quirky? Can you do a pattern interrupt? Like I do content on my jet ski. I do content on ride on lawnmowers.
I've seen those.
I do all sorts of different content, because how often do you see someone ride into a frame on a zero turn lawnmower?
Yeah.
Or how often are you seeing someone talking about property on a jet ski? Not very often. So that interrupts it. So, if you're mowing lawns, well, how can you come into the camera doing something a little bit different?
That makes sense.
If you're in gym content, how can you do something in the gym that isn't like every gym bro, lifting weights and talking about supplements?
Yeah.
So trying stuff that's different. And, I think you're big in filming yourself working, not the work that's been done. So people want to watch something be done and completed, not just the end product.
Yeah.
Example, electrician. People don't want to see the finished product of an inside of a electricity board with the new switches in there. Why don't you film yourself putting the all the circuits in there?
Yeah,
and doing what you need to do. People don't want to see before the lawn was cut and after the lawn. Film yourself mowing, pushing the lawnmower. That, I think, gets a lot more engagement.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I do get caught up watching those lawn transformations, where people knock on people's doors. Hey, can I do your lawn for free because it's overgrown?
Yeah.
I get caught in those.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, you get that dopamine reward yourself from seeing it be done, and you're like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
How many businesses are out there posting before and after pictures of the lawn? It's car detailing. You can post before and after, but show them washing the car, and this is how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
And give away, I think big in giving away value. So I give everyone everything they need. I show them the software that we use and how to look at flood overlays and fire overlays in the due diligence.
Yeah.
So that they can go out there and do that. And if they want to pay the money for the subscriptions and the information, they can go out there and do it on their own.
Yeah.
Or they can come to me and I'll handle the implementation.
Let's talk about that just one more time with regards to getting in touch with you, with regards to actually eliciting your services. What's the preferred method of communication for you? How do people get in touch with you?
They can jump on the link in my bio from social media and book in a call when it suits them. They can shoot me a message on Facebook, Instagram, or simply jump on my website and also book in a call.
Right on. Well, I'll put that web address in the comments of this video, and obviously share it in any of the thumbnails, etc.
Yeah, great.
Before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a bit of stuff. So.
Man, I'm really grateful you took the time to come out here. I love the content. I want you to keep it coming.
Great.
Mate, I'll send clients to you that are in the market for properties and definitely want to make the experience easier. Thank you for coming on the show,
Cheers.
Alister.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.